Thank you. Yeah, I'm Eric Pearson from the City of Hayward. I work in the planning division for the city, and I serve as the city's staff liaison to the Hayward Area Shoreline Planning Agency. So today I'm going to talk a bit about sea level rise and the anticipated impacts on the Hayward shoreline. This study was prepared by Philip Williams & Associates. The company has since been acquired by ESA. The study looks at the resources and infrastructure along the shoreline that are vulnerable to sea level rise and some of the potential strategies for dealing with sea level rise. The study was commissioned by HASPA, or the Hayward Area Shoreline Planning Agency. The agency is a partnership between the City of Hayward, the East Bay Regional Park District, and the Hayward Area Park and Recreation District, or HARD. HASPA was formed in 1970, and they've been advocating for the protection of the shoreline ever since. The jurisdiction of HASPA goes as far south as Union City, the border between Hayward and Union City, as far north as the San Lorenzo Creek. The state of California has directed its agencies to plan for sea level rise. This is a map prepared by the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, or BCDC. It shows mainly topography, so it's not taking into consideration existing levees along the shoreline, but this is what might be kind of a worst case scenario in terms of these sea level rise projections of possibly 16 inches by 2050 and 55 inches by 2100. So I'm going to go through a bit about the resources along the shoreline. There are several marshes, different kinds of marshes that provide significant wildlife habitat. Some are fully tidal and others are controlled by floodgates. There are a number of storm drainage facilities. Floodgates like these will obviously not operate very well if sea level rises by 16 inches or more. You know, storm drainage would have to either be pumped around these structures, or else these would have to be rebuilt at a higher elevation. There are also some closed landfills. The West Winton landfill near the bottom is owned by the City of Hayward. It operated between the 1940s and the 1970s. There are also two wastewater treatment facilities, one owned by the City of Hayward at the south end down here, and then we have the Orloma Sanitary Treatment Facility at the north end. These kinds of features are not easily adaptable to higher sea levels. And we also have several corridors, including the Bay Trail, the EBDA line, which is the East Bay Dischargers Authority. That line carries treated wastewater from several wastewater treatment facilities out into the bay. We have PG&E transmission towers, a gas line, and a railroad. This is a picture taken New Year's Eve 2005 when there was a high tide and strong winds as well, easily overtopped some of the levees we have at the shoreline. Most of the levees out there were originally constructed to create salt ponds, and so they were not engineered, and most are currently too low. This is some of the erosion that happened during that storm. So I'm going to talk a bit about what we might do to accommodate sea level rise. You know, if sea level rise happens gradually, then the natural process of sediment carried onto existing marshes may allow these marshes to accrete or rise vertically, but only if that happens gradually. The blue line here is to signify a possible utility line that would be subject to an advancing shoreline. One thing that can be done to accommodate or to react with sea level rise is to build higher levees and stronger levees. But one thing to consider with that is that there is groundwater. As the bay rises, then the groundwater level will rise as well, and that'll affect buried utility lines. So the first approach to dealing with sea level rise is, this is just a conceptual illustration that, you know, we can hold the line, basically keep the existing levees that we have. By doing so, if we build up the levees and armor them, what will happen is we end up with erosion at the toe of the slope. As that happens, then you'll have to add more armor at the bottom of the levee. What that does is it steepens the outer face and deepens the water, and with deeper water we have larger waves hitting those levees. So one approach would be to realign the shoreline, or allow these outer levees to deteriorate and rely on maybe existing levees that are further inland, or build new levees. The idea being that, at least for a large part of the Hayward shoreline, we're fortunate to have a lot of marsh areas where that marsh can serve to reduce wave height before it reaches the inland levee. So you would not need as large of a levee further inland as you do out on the edge of the bay. We've got some opportunities to deal with sea level rise. We have a lot of fresh water. I mentioned we've got the East Bay Dischargers Authority line that carries treated wastewater from about 800,000 households in Castro Valley, Union City, Hayward, and San Leandro. We also have a large amount of sediment that's trapped in stormwater channels, sediment that's being dredged out of the San Leandro Marina as well. We also have the possibility for brackish marshes. You know, with the channelization of stormwater, we have fewer brackish marshes because the fresh water is being channeled directly into the bay. Brackish marshes are more productive than saltwater marshes in terms of vegetation production. What we looked at is the possibility of gradually steepening existing marshes, possibly adding fresh water, increasing the plant production of these marshes to help with the wave attenuation. Another possibility is to add sediment to these marshes that would help to build them up, possibly pumping sediment from stormwater channels onto these marshes. And this would, as I mentioned earlier, these marshes can rise gradually, naturally, but this would possibly speed up that process as sea level rise happens more rapidly. And then finally, another option would be in cases where we don't have the opportunity to realign or retreat, we may be able to place berms out in the bay, outward of existing levees or marshes to reduce wave heights. The study, which is available online, and I provide a link for that, but it did look at the approximate costs of these different strategies of dealing with sea level rise. These are very rough estimates, but really to show kind of relative costs between the options. A realignment or retreat is the least expensive of the options. The gradual steepening or raising the marshes is the next, and then holding the line, which is basically reinforcing existing levees at the outer part of the shoreline is the most expensive. The conclusion of this study, prepared by Philip Williams and Associates, recommended the preparation of a more detailed vulnerability analysis and then a master plan which might recommend which approaches to use in the different areas. We've been fortunate recently to have been selected to be a part of a study that's being conducted by BCDC, the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, and NOAA. It's a project they're calling Adapting to Rising Tides, or the ART project. They've selected the East Bay area from Union City up to Emeryville, which includes a wide variety of shoreline types. This project just got started in January this year, and it'll be approximately a 2-year project. Again, we're fortunate to have been selected to be a part of that project, and we'll see what comes out of the vulnerability analysis, and there'll be some adaptation strategies developed as part of this study as well. When that's completed, then we'll have to see what happens next. If HASPA may cooperate with other agencies, beyond the 3 agencies that currently make up HASPA, we may be dealing with the impacts of sea level rise on a more cooperative level at the regional level. And that's all I have for now. Thanks.